This is a very important video. I want you to sit back and listen to this video a couple of times, not just once. It's about your mindset and how you think. Now, if you come from corporate world, you have a lot of support, you have a lot of people to emulate. Oh, if I can just go on that same path, I can get to where that person is. So if you're a lawyer, an accountant, or whatever, and you want to start a real estate investing company, that thinking may not work by being self-employed, by being an entrepreneur. Now, I want to tell you how I got started and then how your mindset should be if you want to build a business, and then what I would require you if you hired me as your coach. Okay? So the first thing is how I got started. Uh, I first, my message was a lot like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where my dad said, hey, get an education. You get that education, you're good to go. Well, I got an education. I first started pre-med, and he was a doctor, so I tried to be a doctor, and it didn't work out. I tried chemistry and biology and physics, and I had a really hard time getting A's. I could get B's and B pluses, but I couldn't get A's, and that's not good enough if you're a white male trying to get into medical school. Now, if I were a minority, maybe it might be easier. Those grades would have been good enough. But my teacher sat me down and says, you've got people in your class that are not smarter than you are, but their brains are different. And they like things, they like processes, they like all that, like an engineer. And you know what? I'm not like that. I'm a people person. So, you know, to make a long story short, I got a degree in psychology instead. And I liked business ideas, and I liked humanities, and I loved philosophy. I loved all those things that were about people and emotion and all the rest of that other stuff versus things. Okay, so I get my degree, and I get a job, and because of my resume, it was I got a job at engineering sales where I could use my personality, but also my analytical things. And I was working for this guy, and he wasn't paying my commissions on time, and I was getting upset. I was a young man. I was fresh out of the Marine Corps, and so at the end of the day, I was depressed because he owed me like $20,000, and I wanted to quit in the worst way. So I was at this bar, and this older guy, who's about 60 years old, he was sitting right next to me. He looked at me and go, "Who died?" And I went, "Well, I'm just having a really bad day because I got a job I hate, and they're not paying me on time. I feel like going to a lawyer and suing them." I went, "Well, if you want to quit your job, let me ask you this one question because I might have an idea for you." I said, "What's your question?" I said, "Do you like to help people solve problems?" I went, "Sure. I love doing that. Solving problems is I love doing that." So he says, "Well, we work with money and real estate, and we look for problems and we try to give a good solution to that person that owns real estate. Would you be interested in talking to people about solving problems with real estate?" I went, "Yeah, that'd be great." So he gave me his card and sat me down, and I said, "Look, I'm going to paint a picture. You're in foreclosure, but you're not in real trouble. You're 3 months behind, and you owe, 190,000, and the property's worth 200. Not a lot of equity there. Um, I'm going to present to you a solution." And he showed me how he did that, and he showed me the paperwork that he would sign up. It was only a letter of intent to purchase. That's all it was. It wasn't a sale and purchase agreement. It wasn't very complicated. It was something that everybody could understand, even if they didn't speak English as a first language. It was easy. I said, "I can do that, no problem." I said, "Okay." Says, "But before you go out on appointments, I want to make sure you can do it with me and a couple other people in the office, because if you can do it with us in a safe environment like this, then you can go out in the public and feel confident, right?" I says, "Yeah." So it took me about a week to learn that presentation. And then when I went out to real people, I was nervous. Boy, I screwed up the first couple of them. I said, "I'm going to get fired. I don't know what I'm doing. And my boss's name was Glenn, and he said, Glenn said, Brian, don't worry about it. Everybody gets nervous in the beginning. If you weren't nervous, you wouldn't be a responsible person. You'd just be an irresponsible person. You don't give a shit. So you care about doing it right, and that's fine. Now I want you to go back in the office and do it a couple more times with me, and then go back out in the field and start getting better, okay? Because I know you can do it. You're a smart guy. So I went back out, and you know what? With that coaching that he gave me a lot of, wonderful, wonderful inspiration and confidence. And I had 4 appointments a day, 7 days a week. That's 28, almost 30 appointments a week. So if it was 30 times 4, that's 120 a month. After my first month, I was almost cocky. I was almost like, I can do this in my sleep. But here's the issue. I had basically been given everything by Glenn's company. They set appointments for me. They did all the marketing. They confirmed appointments for me. I just had to show up. My show factor was like 90%. But I had support. And that was probably the best way to learn this business, is to get in front of as many sellers as possible. I think that first month that I was there, we closed on about 5 sales. And each sale created about $5,000 to $10,000 in income. Guess how much money I made? I only made like $500 a week. Because he had overhead. He had to pay his rent and his receptionist and his telemarketing team and all the rest of this other stuff. And he had to pay his marketing costs. It was all direct mail back then. And newspaper ads. So, I was pumped. I was doing really well. I think my closing ratio could have been a little bit better. In my second month, third month, fourth month, everything was starting to get really, really good. And then let's flash forward, maybe 2.5 years I was doing this. And it was like I was almost bored because didn't need to work that hard. I only had to go out on appointments. I could do some other things. But I wasn't that ambitious either. I didn't want to make a lot of money. I didn't. I was happy with my $500 a week, and that was actually cash money. That was my net check after tax. So I was making probably, I don't know, 40 grand a year. But after about 2 years, I started to go, I want to start my own company like Glenn has. I don't want to be an employee. So what I did is basically I started my own company. And I remember the name of it, I remember the office, and I remember my first person, and I only had about 3 grand saved. And I knew I could get it done on a bootstrap, on a shoestring, but it would have been nice to have some capital. So I remember the day I quit. And I walked into Glenn's office and went, Glenn, I got the worst news in the world for you. I have to leave. I have to quit the business because I want to go out and start my own company. I already started my own LLC, and I want to go out and do my own deals. I won't compete with your area. I'll go in a different area, but I really need to go out and fly on my own. And Glenn, he leaned back and just put his head back, and he said, Brian, I'll tell you something. I got 2 questions for you. The first question is, what took you so long to quit? You're one of the smartest guys I've ever met in my life. You know how to shake somebody's hand and how to get a signature on a contract. It's not your sales ability, it's your ability to listen. It's the ability to ask good questions. You're not the best closer in the world, but you're very good. So what took you so long? I went, I don't know, I got lazy. I told him. I said, the second question is, you can quit today. I mean, you'll hurt me a little bit because I'm used to you being very reliable, working your tail off, but I'll find somebody else. We've got a few people that aren't as good as you, but we'll get some more people in here. And I do want to give you a present, though. Here's a present. takes out his checkbook and he writes out a check. Says, this is a present from me to you because you have made me a ton of money. I don't know how much, but it's in the, I don't know, hundreds of thousands. And because of what you did. Of course, I helped you along, setting the appointments and doing the marketing, but it's because of you. And I have more faith in you than I have in anybody else that I've ever met as far as face-to-face presentations. So I said, thanks a lot, Glenn. So he cuts out me a check, and he puts up in my shirt pocket, I had a formal business shirt and a pen, and he put it right in my pocket there. And he taps it and he says, Brian, do not look at that check until you get out in your car. Promise me. And the other promise I want you to make to me is if you have a deal that you cannot close, you can't close it, I want you to call me and we'll split the profits 50-50. How's that sound? Pretty good? You went, fantastic. So how did I get started after that, you know? Well, first of all, let me tell you about that check. Go out in my car and I went, boy, that was easy. I thought that was going to be terribly hard because I've seen Glenn get really upset. So I sat down, I pulled out the check, and I went, $15,000 he gave me. 15 grand. I was blown away. I had like 4 or 5 months expenses on my business for that. You know, that really helped me get started. So having some capital really does help in this business. You can't, you know, that was back in 1986. That's like 40 grand today. All right. So, you know, I started my own company. I worked out of my apartment at the time. I was 25 years old. I was fresh out of the Marine Corps. You know, but I knew exactly what to say. I knew exactly what to do. Put in a few ads. Put in a few, did a direct mail. I hired a direct mail company. Get some motivated seller leads, and I went out and I did the same thing. It's not hard, but you're either trained or untrained in this business. And, you know, I'm sorry, you know, everybody has been so inundated with all these seminars. You know, people get on the stage and they say, your time is now, and if you don't walk back to that room and get our awesome training material, you will never make it in this life. Well, that may be true. But at the same juncture, I think one-on-one training is the fastest, best way for you to do well. And I love one-on-one training. I really enjoy it. So it's up to you to be able to say, do I want somebody that knows what they're doing to keep me accountable, to keep me motivated, and to shake me by the shoulders and tell me that I'm being lazy, tell me that I'm being stubborn, you know? Somebody senior, somebody that's been really doing this for a while. Do I want that? Am I willing to pay for it? Am I willing to be accountable? If he says to go knock on 10 doors this weekend, I'm going to go do that. If he says to study this sales presentation, I'm going to do that. Now, I will tell you a little bit, I mean, your mindset, we started off with mindset here, okay? First of all, know that in the beginning, the first 3 months of working one-on-one with a coach, you're going to be frustrated. Can you handle being frustrated? And you're going to be accountable. You have to show up on time for these one-on-one conversations that we have on Skype or on the phone, and you have to be honest. You have to tell the truth. Okay? And the other thing is when you talk to sellers in person, you have to report back what happened. You know, if you don't report back, I'm not there. I'm not in the room. I'm not at the front door. I don't know what happened. And know that law of large numbers cures problems, cures all problems. If you talk to enough people, belly button to belly button every week, you must make some money. You have to. But we are in a lazy society. Done for you, done for you, done for you. It takes practice to be good at something. That's why I work with you one-on-one when how to talk to sellers. If you can get that one thing down and then convert them, close them on a letter of intent to purchase or lease. Just get that one piece done. You will have a lot of deals and you will make a good amount of money. So your mindset, how do you have to think? Okay, number one, I'm going to listen to my coach. Number two, I'm going to implement what the coach says. Number three, I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to read some motivational materials like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or somebody that's famous that started something from nothing. You know, you are what you read. You are what you say. You are what you think. You are what you read. You are what you say. You are what you think. You must control your thinking. I can't do that. If I tell you that you need to walk through 10 houses this week, that's what you got to do. And I'll help you get to that point. You might only do a couple this week and a couple more, 2 this week, 4 next week, 6 next week, whatever. But as long as you're going forward, you have to be going forward. You can't go backward. Now, things get in the way. I understand that. People get sick, people die, people, have problems, and you get sidetracked. As long as you focus on what I have to do, and I never give you more than 3 or 4 things to do this week. I don't overload you, but you have to do those things really well. Your mindset is going to make or break your ability to do well. That's it. And below this video, I'm going to put in the credo of a real estate investor. I want you to print that out and put it above your computer. It's awesome. It's the most powerful thing that you can read every day. Okay? So listen, thank you for listening to this mindset video. I really care about you being successful. I understand that it's frustrating getting started. If you hire me, remember, I give you one of the best guarantees in the business. It is conditional. You must implement the training. But after 12 months, if you focus on what I've trained you with, and it hasn't worked, it has not created enough money to pay off your training in full. And how much is my training? If you want to know, it's $7,000 and it's paid up front. If you can't afford that, then go borrow the money. But that's it. You pay me nothing else, and we don't do deal splits. If you go look at Freedom Mentor is $15,000. If you go to Rich Dad Poor Dad is $30,000. If you go to Fortune Builders, they're $20,000. $7,000 is not a lot of money, and that's for 12 straight months. It's like going to college, and I tell you what to do. You go do that. You talk to me every single week for a couple hours. And it's only about you. It's not group coaching. I don't think group coaching works because everybody does it differently. Everybody has different strengths. Everybody has different whatever. So if you're interested, contact me. We'll see what we can work out. I don't do payment plans, so you're going to have to get a cash advance from something. But I do give you that conditional guarantee. If you do not make $7,000 with what I teach you, I will refund your money in full because I have failed you. But it's conditional doing the work. I can't do any better than that. It's the best guarantee in the business. I want to thank you so much for listening to this longer story about how I got started and mindset that you need. Just, want this. You got to want this. You got to want it for your family. You can't want it to make money. You want it to make money so that you can have choices. How'd you like to go on a couple of vacations? How'd you like to get that old car sold and get a beautiful car? How would you like to get the better school district for your kids? You gotta want to do it for something else than just making a lot of money. This is Brian Gibbons. I wish you the best. Thank you so much for listening to this recording.